Today we have with us architect Ami Bhuvara with us of AV Fourth Dimension Mumbai. So ma'am, good morning.
Good morning, Shamrita.
So ma'am, it's a pleasure to have you here today with us. And as we discussed earlier, that we would like to, we are doing a designer series and we would like to be a part of it. And let's discuss a little bit of your journey and your insights about your architectural experiences. So ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I've been doing this for quite some time now. So initially when you started it, did you have a design philosophy, and do you still have a design philosophy now? And if you do, then what does that mean to you?
So I think to be in this space, it would be very, very difficult to not have a philosophy. It would be very hard to survive in this space if you didn't have one, because I think it comes from a very different space, right? Design emerges from a very different space altogether. So yes, of course, we've had a philosophy, and it has evolved over time, of course. So today, what I feel is that every engagement for me begins by being a good listener. We try to understand the client's lifestyle and the aesthetic that they identify with, because I think that is very, very important, because it is the client's space effectively, right? What happens is that when we go through this process, it enables me to create an inclusive spatial concept for them. I can say that it's a journey with the client where you try to understand and you also try to be understood. Without that, it's impossible to create a space which has individuality of the client within that. So of course the process is very lengthy, but I think it's very, very meaningful. And I say that because it's very, very gratifying, especially when you catch that expression of joy and belonging on the client's face, right? And I think it only grows over time, and it just multiplies manifold, right? When you see that the client is now beginning to experience your design intent. I think for me, the entire design philosophy begins from trying to understand the client and their lifestyle, in a nutshell, because we are designing lifestyles. We are not designing spaces, essentially. Spaces are only an outcome of the lifestyle. And yeah, I mean, of course, that's the intangible part of the philosophy. The tangible part, which I think most of us connect with and is an, integral part of the profession. In that sense, I think inherent to my design approach, of course, I stay on top of all material innovations, their, production methodology, their marketing approaches. You of course keep absolutely in touch with all the global design trends, right? This entire process gets further informed, right? When you apply only the relevant, you only pick the relevant from there, right? And then you apply the wisdom of the associated arts and sciences, of the materials, of the spaces, of the flow, everything. And all of that put together, right, just so that we are able to, kind of achieve the ultimate aim or the ultimate goal over here of being able to create a timeless design narrative unique to that space. That is the most important, that it has to be unique to that particular space. It's not that you pick it up from somewhere and, kind of apply it somewhere else, patch it up somewhere else.
Also specific to the space that you are designing. Mm-hmm. So over the years, since you have been there and doing your practice for quite some time, so over the years, have your approach towards your design has changed? If yes, has it has evolved, or you want to say that no, it is the same? Like, how do you approach this particular question of mine?
So I think I partially answered your question when I was giving the answer to the first question itself. It is a process, and anything which is a process, it only, makes you better, right? So in that sense, it is always, and you always evolve. It is inevitable that you won't, right? So yes, most certainly through this journey of all these years of practicing architecture, interiors, and product design now, right? So I think I've evolved in a manner where it has got me closer and closer to my details, right? So it's like a journey from macro to micro, and it would be wonderful to kind of complete the journey going back from micro to macro. I think it would be an experience for a client who would be able to engage themselves with us on one such project. So it's certainly a process of evolution, and you cannot really say that you won't grow kind of in that space. So what it is today to me, to answer the latter part of your question, I think today every project entails soaking myself into the space, right, by myself for some time. I need to give myself some time by myself at every space that I'm about to design with, because there's a feeling, there are observations that you carry from there, right? Then you keep adding the building blocks as your thoughts keep flowing. There's a flow. You start thinking, you start imagining, right? So the thoughts keep flowing. You try to look for hidden cues from the interactions that you've had with the client, right? And I think when all of this starts coming together is when giving it some focused time in kind of early morning hours, for me early morning hours, because I think they are spaces that's a time when I'm totally not disturbed, there is no distraction, and you can give that absolute focus time. So giving this focus time to hone the idea that you have been kind of brewing in your head for all this while, and finally kind of bring out the best. So that's what it begins with. And after that, good design is only an outcome of a structured approach.
So, ma'am, I am saying that I have known you for quite some time now, and I know how particular, organized you are when it comes to your work. So, for you, I have seen you are like always prepared to go, and you are like all steps are decided. So now you believe in this curation and creation. And rather, I would put it as your words, it's creation and curation. And so what do you mean by it? Whenever you're designing a project, you keep this in mind, and you always try to go according to this. So what is this? Can you just explain us?
So I'll catch this up from the last statement I made in the previous question that we discussed, that good design is an outcome of a structured approach, right? So why this approach, and what is this structured approach, right? Having a structure in place is essentially what allows us to evolve and adapt to newer technologies or techniques at all points of time, right? And that adaptation, or that process of evolving continually, right, and being able to adapt what is new and who can do what in that space for you, right, is what helps us create an element, right, which lends the space its unique identity, right? So that is what I define as my process of creation, right? Because it is an element, an object, anything, something that belongs to that space itself, right? It is very, very unique to that space. So that is what I define as a process of creation, right? And alongside, of course, there is curation that does take place, because curation is necessary to be able to hit the right chord, right? You're trying to create a flow. You're trying to create, a wonderful music over there. So, there are enough and more, products, very well designed, very well executed by many respectable designers, from the country, from the world. So curation, of course, is inevitable, and you will always find something or the other that fits the space. But something unique to that space is always demanded, right? The space always demands, for some or the other reason, right, to complete that symphony, if one may say, right? And that is the process of creation for me. So curation and creation, Shamrita, go hand in hand, right? And why we go through the process of creation and curation and creation hand in hand is because eventually your ulterior motive is to create a space that endures and embraces the tomorrow gracefully. We're not creating only for today or for 5 years from now or 2 years from now or 10 years from now. It's something that really has to beautifully and gracefully age with the client. It's a residential space. It's not something that people keep doing again and again, right? So I hope I answered your question.
Creation and curation. Thank you for your input on that. But could you just elaborate it with maybe with one of your project examples?
Sure, Shamrita. I think we can do that. I will explain each of the 4 cases that I mentioned to you with some project images here. Yeah. So this is one project which is a bedroom suite. As you can see it. This is a demand of creation that emerged from the desire expressed by a client, right? The client's desire was that they wanted a very regal looking bedroom suite. So in the process of interaction, we agreed to adopt a contemporary avatar of an arabesque pattern, and then we decided to apply it across various materials and various surfaces of the room in a very innovative manner, right? So as you see, I've zoomed into the picture to show you how beautifully we stenciled the pattern on the entire bedhead wall. I hope that is very, very clearly visible over here. If I take you to the if I scroll up over here, you will notice that there's an AC grill here, right? The AC grill was also very beautifully as a continuous flow without even breaking the motif or the pattern at all. We cut it out from solid wood and merged it wonderfully well with it. I'll move to the next slide, but you can see over here that we've applied the same pattern as a CNC cut technique on a solid metal sheet. I think this image will give you a better view of that. And not to miss the continuous flow of the pattern here, and how beautifully it has been managed that the pattern has ended perfectly in a half or a full, right? There's absolutely no overlap. So that seamless flow is just beautiful, according to me. So here's the stencil, here's the CNC cut metal. Further to that, we have kind of applied it as a semi-precious stone marquetry right here on this entire ledge, sitting right below the entertainment unit over here. We further carried it into the bed, into the walk-in wardrobe. Here we chose to do an inlay with a semi-precious stone into lacquer. If I zoom in a little further, you will realize that I've even applied it over here as an etching on the mirror, right, by the side. So this is like the dressing mirror, and these are niches by the side which were carrying your vanity, basically your vanity needs. And even there we have applied the same thing. The same technique of etching has been used in the private wellness areas. May not be visible in the image, but they were also etched on glass, basically back painted glass or mirror. And the last to complete the entire story or the flow, we did this CNC cutting again on plexiglass right above the WC area over here. And that was done to beautifully camouflage a window. If you see, there's a window right behind here, which we've drawn a curtain to right now because there must have been a lot of glare when we shot the image. But that was basically to allow the light and ventilation to travel into the space. So this is what I define as a beautiful story, a beautiful flow, where you're creating the surfaces, various surfaces of the suite with the same pattern in a very innovative manner. And that's my definition of creation, coming from a space of aesthetic desire, right? I would take you to the next slides if you like. where I think we spoke about the need of creation emerging out of lifestyle, right? So this is another space, another beautiful project where there was this one space in the house where the client wanted to use it in multiple ways, right? So they said that this could be used as a home office, this could be used as a study, this could also be used as a home theater system, just a family space, a casual family space which can be used in kind of multiple ways. So this was the hallway that took us into the space, and as I get closer, you can see the doors opening, the sliding screens opening and drawing you into the space here. This is a setup that we had done for them when they would like to use it as a home office or a study, where if it was a home office, then somebody could be working, somebody could be reading by the side over here. If it was to be used to see a client or for a business purpose, then there could be a visitor who's seated over here, and it could become like a proper home office. The projector over here was provided so that in case there was a business presentation or anything that was to be made, and that could be taken care of as well. That was the father shot, with everything kind of looked into and taken care of. Like if you see, there's a printer table over here, so you pull the tray out, you can print, you have the filing cabinets available, every nitty-gritty taken care of over here. That was a projection screen, and the same would become a home theater system whenever the family wanted to kind of use it as a home theater space. A little bathroom that opens up for a visitor to use. And in case they wanted to use it as a home theater space, then obviously they would run short of, they would need some seating. In the image, we noticed that we had just kept a lounger over there to be used as a study. So the requirements of the client, the budgetary concerns, the availability of the right hardware to be able to completely convert the space from a lounger to a proper couch seating or a sofa seating, comfortable couch seating for viewing of a movie, obviously laid some kind of constraints. So we decided to agree on move internally within the house, moving the furniture around. So the lounger would be moved into another space, and a couch would be brought out kind of from them. So in that case, the setup would change to this, right, where we have a chair with a footstool that doubles up as a little coffee table as well, and the lounger gets replaced by the sofa. The projector remains over there, the projection screen remains, and it's simply converted into a home theater space right now. One not to forget, if you notice when I kind of clicked, that we have this screen, this element that is moving. See, so this is like a sliding thing, right? This allows us, this allowed the client to maintain privacy in the meeting room or in the space, depending on what the application of the space was, how was it being utilized at that point of time. So this is one of our recent examples where I would say that we have creatively designed the space where it can be put to good use in multiple situations. Taking you to my third example, where we said that design marries functionality, right? So this is the bathroom of the same space that we were discussing earlier, and the way the basin counter is placed, or the way the WC had to be placed behind kind of this screen, was all decided by Vastu, right? So there was a Vastu belief that played like a very huge role over here, and therefore the basin is sitting kind of where it is sitting, and then it was only about us to bring out the best in the form of design. So as you can see a little bit of light filtering from here. So right behind the basin over here was a window, and right beside it, where you don't see the light essentially filter but the cutouts are continued, is where there is an access to the plumbing shaft of the building, right? So now that was a challenge, because if you have a window, you need to keep opening and shutting that for ventilating or airing out the bathroom, right? So what would we do in this case? We need a mirror for the basin, and we have a window sitting over there. So we covered this entire wall in this beautiful, MDF screen. This is just MDF because it was more of a powder bathroom. There was no shower element here. So we used MDF and did the cutout so that it allows natural daylight to kind of flow in. These were openable, so they could completely open and the window could be accessed, and so could the shaft. And the final example, Shamrata, as we were discussing about creation, and someone that I very closely connect with, is the need of creation that emerges out of an emotional requirement, right? And I think this is a beautiful classic example that I would like to narrate here. So let me quote this project. A multi-level dwelling we were engaged with in Mumbai. The available floor plate and the Vastu belief forced the master suite to be located away from that of the children's suite. So if you see this opening over here in this image, this is the children's suite, and the master suite, was on the fag end of the hallway. The children were young, and I sensed the discomfort of both children and mother because of the distance in the suites. The only plane that connected the two spaces was a 45 feet long wall. That is this wall that we are talking about. So this became my canvas. There emerged my design narrative, connecting the two spaces emotionally. Every site begins with spaces that are created around a narrative. The shell is designed to receive materials and products to seamlessly flow into each other. We further strengthen the narrative with curation from enough and more respectable work already available. However, at times, the last note is to be created for the symphony. And this is where creation begins. I hope I was able to explain the entire process to you.
So when you are designing such spaces, and I'm sure with your experiences, and you would be knowing, you might have come across a lot of challenges. So how do you overcome those challenges and also the unpredictable situations?
You're bang on in asking that question, right? That of course challenges.
Even the project you just showed us might be having a lot of challenges, because in order to do a 45 feet long wall, or even the washroom that you did, and along with a mirror that has to be useful, at the same time it has to be used continuously, opening and closing. So what are the challenges? These are small challenges, but there might be a bigger challenge also in your site or something. So how do you deal with that?
So I think one has to be very, very motivated, or continuously inspired, I would say, to be able to first sense these things, right? So I think I would like to, quote this over here, that inspiration sometimes comes from a client expressed need. It has to be an expressed need, right? Or an expressed desire, right? And sometimes even from the things that you see around, correct? But I think most of the other times when this is inexistent, right, then I think I often wake up in the morning with a burning idea in my head. And this is not something that I have said. This is something that was quoted by Vladimir Kagan. And I think I very, very closely associate with that language. So I think to be self-motivated and continually inspired, right, is very, very necessary, because that is when you feel these things and you feel the need, you understand that need, and from what space it is coming. And that is what, kind of tells you that you have to do this. And then I'm a person who needs to be convinced, right? So once I'm convinced and I'm clear in my head that this is the need of the space, right, then that is it. Once I'm in that space, then it is only about navigating through the challenges and the situations that keep unfolding, because every site has its challenge. Every site will have its challenge about, how to go around executing it, what comes first, what follows. Like, to quote the 45 feet wall that we discussed, right? We had hand drawn the entire tracing. I don't know if you noticed on the upper right corner of the panel that I projected, there was a small sketch, the first sample sketch that, I had done, which is about a meter by meter. And then we showed that as a concept to the client, and then we hand drew the entire tracing of, which is, kind of 45 feet long and 9.5 feet tall at site. So it does, kind of entail a lot of patience and a lot of effort. But like I said, challenges and situations always keep changing. They always keep unfolding. Once you're convinced that this is the need, right, then that has to be done. Also, I'm someone who's very process oriented. So I push hard. At times, I push really hard to adhere to them. So initially, it does cause pain. It causes pain sometimes to the people who are working at site, more often than not, because they're being told that this is how you want to do and this is how I would like it to be, right? But I think eventually it is the biggest savior. I think processes really help us, and they become our biggest saviors in unforeseen and unpredictable circumstances. So I think my processes are absolutely.
Your process is in place, then things can be taken care of.
Yeah. So once you're clear in your head and you have a structure and a process, right, which you are then kind of following or adhering to, it just makes it so easy to lead the entire project from its inception to completion, right? And eventually, that is how you're able to create that tranquility, or create a space which is so tranquil, calm, a sanctuary where the client feels belonged to. And I think it is much needed in the times that we live in, right? Eventually why do we want to go home? We want to go home to feel the calm after all the turmoil that you go through the entire day.
Also, like while you're designing and while you are conceptualizing something, another thing that plays a very important role is sourcing of the right products. So, ma'am, in today's time, what do you think is the current situation? Like, is it a challenge, or is it a very smooth thing and everything is very accessible, or is it again still difficult to get certain products? Like, what is your experience on that?
So again, my answer to this is the sourcing of products are very often, I think they are driven by client choices, right? The first comes the client choices, and then I think come in the brand ideologies and the USPs of the brand, because there will be certain brands who are technically very, very sound. There are certain brands who have a beautiful story, behind the entire creation. The way the brand kind of produces, right, their products, like when they're using wood, right, and some brands have their own forests, and they're following a very ethical way of replanting that many trees, and they're treating the wood, and various things, right? So every brand has its ideology and USP. So I think to be aware of that, to marry that awareness or that knowledge that you carry with you along with the client choices, right, I think is what is the most challenging. That is where the combination has to come right. Once you get the combination, then sourcing is only consequential. I think there is a lot that is available out there. It's about just putting the entire thing together really well. And to me, the brand ideology resonates very well when I'm speaking to the creator, right? Or even if it's not the creator, and if it is someone who is managing the brand, the person should not just be a marketing person. He or she should not be there just to sell it, right? If the person knows the product in and out, that becomes so much more easier for us to relate to the product, right? Evaluate the entire pro, con, everything of that, and then put it on the table across to our clients. So I think that's pretty much the process that we follow.
What do you think is the future of sourcing of products, like taken into the current situation that we are under lockdown, or maybe in future? What do you think is the future?
That's a very interesting question that you have asked. I think it's hard to answer that absolutely directly, because I think nobody today knows what is in store. But yeah, I can share what my insights about
what do you think
this
would
thing
be
is.
the
Yeah. I think people will continue to use established brands. The preference will be for established brands. However, Shamrita, there is so much innovation happening in the country and across the globe, right? There are a lot of new budding designers, new ideas, new techniques, technology, new stories all over the place. So I think
it's more accessible nowadays than...
Right, absolutely, right? Because there's social media, there is I think in that sense the world has grown much smaller than what it was, right? It is very much within reach. So I think these new designers are definitely going to give the established brands a run for their money. So I believe that the established brands will also have to continually start innovating. I think one will not be able to say that, oh, I'm established and I'm going to be selling forever. You will have to innovate. You will also have to adapt to times and keep the ball rolling. So there will be space for kind of both, right? But I think all in all, it will be a very interesting. The entire sourcing platform is going to become a very, very interesting space. Or a very, very interesting spectrum for the client in terms of choices, because they will have the experience of the established players and the exuberance and the quirkiness of the new designers that will all come together. It'll make, I think overall it will be a very, very interesting space to be in.
As you know, in Arcadia, we have also created a space for ourselves where we are trying to get the entire world in one place, where you can access all the brands, at most of the brands across the globe at one point. So ma'am, I had asked you, like you had seen our website. So
that's right.
How do you feel about the approach that we have?
I think it is a fabulous thing that you guys have done, and I think it is. I don't know whether you guys had this foresight that COVID is going to happen and the lockdown is going to happen, but I think you hit it at the right time. If I would say, I think it's a very unique platform that you guys have come up with. I think what would be very, very interesting or important for any such platform to capture is. That we are able to provide, right, enough and more choices of products which are high in quality, right? They're good engineering, and I think they should endure the Indian lifestyle. There are a lot of products available, but the Indian lifestyle sometimes, is a difficult one to deal with. So I think the Indian lifestyle needs to be borne in mind over here while we are, curating and putting together the entire product range. Of course, having a platform where aesthetically appealing products are available in various finishes and various price points will be very, very valuable for any designer or any client to choose from. Right. So I think it is absolutely fantastic to have all of that come together on Arcadia. Also, I think the one value add that I would like to make after having reviewed your website is there is a huge artisanal wave that we are seeing globally. We are talking a lot about handmade and artisanal. Not necessarily the traditional way or the tribal way, but because we are catering to the luxury market or the few who are looking at quality products, right? But I think there are a lot of designers today who are working along with these artisan groups, right? Who value add, who contemporize some ancient craft or art, and they've recreated or given it a complete new avatar. So I think it would be nice to capture that category as well. and unfailingly don't miss out on the limited edition pieces. There are some designers who work on complete bespoke or limited edition pieces, as I would call it, which are very unique. They are not mass produced, and there are clients who are looking for these because they don't want to see an element that they have in their space, in someone else's space. So I think that would be interesting. So to have all of this under one roof, I think will be very, very valuable for any designer in the coming times, because with the limitation that we have, we may not be able to go out and source things the way we were used to doing some time ago. We don't know what the after COVID times or the in COVID times, once we have adapted to the new normal, are going to be like. So I think that'd be a great experience, and I would look forward to enjoying that with you guys.
Because see, we are also, just as you mentioned, we are taking baby steps now. It's just the beginning. It's a long way to go. So we are also trying to get into, and people, and especially architects like you and the others that we work with, the valuable inputs that you give will actually help us to create something which will be beneficial to a lot many people at large.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time today. It was lovely speaking to you.
Likewise,
you have
Amrita.
a nice day. Thank you.
You too. Wishing Archidior a lot of success, and wish you guys all the very best.